Ladies and gentlemen, let's pull back the curtain on one of life's most overlooked truths. Every single one of us is a salesperson, whether we like it or not. You may say, Napoleon, I've never sold a thing in my life. I'm not in sales, I'm not cut out for it. Well, let me stop you right there. If you've ever convinced a child to eat their vegetables, talked your way out of a speeding ticket, or persuaded your boss to give you a Friday off, congratulations, you've made a sale. You just didn't collect a commission. But here's the catch. The very first step in salesmanship, the foundation upon which every deal, every handshake, every successful negotiation stands, isn't about technique. It isn't about slick words or clever closing lines. No, it begins with something much simpler and far more powerful: belief. Yes, belief. Not just belief in the product or the service you represent, but belief in yourself. Because before you can sell anything to anyone, you must first sell yourself to yourself. You must become your own biggest fan, your own best customer, and if I may say so, your own head of marketing. Let's get one thing straight. No one else is going to champion your cause unless you do it first. If you walk into a room already defeated, with your shoulders slumped and your confidence hiding under the table, even the best sales script in the world won't help you. People buy enthusiasm, they buy certainty, they buy the twinkle in your eye that says, I know what I'm talking about, and you'd be a fool not to listen. Let me tell you a little story. Early in my career, I tried selling an insurance policy to a gentleman who looked like he ate salesmen for breakfast. I showed up with my pamphlets, my rehearsed lines, and my best, trust me, I'm a professional smile. And what happened? He handed me my hat so fast, I didn't have time to sweat through my suit. Why? Because deep down, I wasn't convinced myself. I was nervous, I was desperate, and I practically broadcasted, please buy, I really need this. He could smell my uncertainty from a mile away. What did I learn? Before you sell a product, before you sell an idea, you must first sell your own conviction. You have to believe, deep in your bones, that what you have to offer is valuable. People don't buy products, they buy people. They buy trust, energy, confidence. They buy you. So ask yourself, do you believe in yourself? Are you sold on you? Because if you're not, it's time to stop rehearsing the script and start working on the actor. It's time to take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, I am worth listening to. What I offer matters. And if you can't say that well, that's your first step, and it's the hardest sale you'll ever have to make. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Maybe you're thinking, okay, Hill, I get it, belief is important, but how do I actually build that belief? What if I'm just not a naturally confident person? Let me assure you, confidence is not an inherited trait like blue eyes or a stubborn cowlick. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be built, sharpened, and yes, even faked till it's real. Picture this. Have you ever seen a rookie salesperson, nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, walk into a meeting and land a sale purely by accident? It's rare, but it happens. Why? Because sometimes that raw enthusiasm, that honest belief in what they're doing, outshines all the polished techniques in the world. People feel it. They're drawn to it. But here's the real secret: most of us aren't born with unshakable confidence. It's something we craft, one small win at a time. You start with a little preparation, a dash of practice, and a willingness to step up even when your knees are knocking. The first time you do it, you might stumble. The second time, you might sweat. By the 10th time, you start to see yourself differently. Suddenly you realize you're still standing. You've survived. You might even be smiling. Remember, selling isn't about turning into some grinning, silver-tongued charmer. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself consistently. It's about knowing your strengths, and here's the kicker, your weaknesses too. There's power in honesty. Nobody trusts a person who claims to be flawless, but everyone respects someone who owns their story. Let me tell you about my friend Joe. Joe was the kind of guy who could trip over a cordless phone, but he could sell snow to a penguin. How? Because Joe believed in what he sold and, more importantly, he believed in himself. He didn't try to be slick. He didn't hide his nerves. Instead, he leaned in, laughed at his own mistakes, and invited others to laugh with him. People bought from Joe not because he was perfect, but because he was real. So, how do you start building this belief? Simple: make a list. Yes, I'm serious. Write down your wins, no matter how small. That time you helped a friend solve a problem, the project you finished ahead of schedule, the compliment you got from a client. Stack those wins in your mind like bricks, and soon you'll have a foundation you can stand on when the ground starts shaking. And while you're at it, take a look at your failures too, not to beat yourself up, but to remind yourself you survived. Each mistake is a lesson if you're paying attention. And nothing builds true confidence faster than knowing you can get knocked down and get back up again and again. So the next time you catch yourself doubting, remember, self-belief isn't a gift, it's a habit. The first step in salesmanship is selling yourself on yourself. Get good at that, and the rest, well, the rest is just details. Let's not sugarcoat it. Most people never make it past this first step. They spend years searching for the perfect script, the magic words, the one weird trick to turn every no into a yes. They hop from seminar to seminar, collecting motivational quotes like baseball cards, but they never actually put themselves on the line. Why? Because deep down they're terrified of hearing that little voice in their head whisper, "You're not good enough." I'll let you in on a secret. That voice? It's a lousy salesman. If you bought a car from a guy that negative, you'd be calling the Better Business Bureau before you hit the first stoplight. So why would you buy his pitch about your own potential? Here's the real-ite everyone gets nervous. The old pros, the fresh rookies, the CEO who seems to have it all together. Nerves mean you care, but you can't let nerves run the show. That's like letting the parking attendant drive the bus. You have to grab the wheel, smile at your doubts, and say, "Thanks for your input, but I'm going anyway." Now, let's get tactical. You want to silence that inner heckler? Preparation is your best defense. Know your product, know your client, and know yourself. I'm not talking about memorizing every technical spec can read a brochure. I mean understanding how what you offer can make someone's life better. That's what matters. Imagine you're selling shoes. Don't just memorize the features: arch support, shock absorption, stylish laces. Sure, if you're into that sort of thing. Ask yourself, who needs these shoes? Why? What will they do in them? Run a marathon, walk their dog, stand on their feet all day providing for their family. When you connect what you sell to real needs, your conviction becomes contagious. And don't forget, the most important product you'll ever sell is yourself. Not in some phony, act confident and hope no one notices you're sweating through your shirt way, but in a genuine, I'm here to help you solve a problem way. People don't buy from robots. They buy from people who care. Let's be real some days. The only thing you'll sell is the idea that you'll be back to try again tomorrow. That's fine. Resilience is part of the business. Anyone can sell on a lucky day. Real pros show up even when it's raining no's. The more you show up, the more you veto yourself, most of all that you belong here. So, next time you feel like an imposter, remember, nobody is born with a briefcase and a killer pitch. The first step is showing up as yourself, nerves, doubts, and Alan doing the work. Sell yourself on your own potential. Everyone else is just waiting for your cue. Let's get brutally honest for a moment. The world is full of wannabe salespeople, folks who dress the part, say all the right buzzwords, and have LinkedIn profiles shinier than a new penny. But when it comes down to it, they can't close the deal because they skipped the first, most crucial step, believing in themselves and what they offer. It's like showing up to a boxing match with all the fancy gear but forgetting to actually train. Sure, you look the part until the first punch lands. That's when reality calls your bluff. Here's the thing. Salesmanship is not a costume you put on for the meeting. It's not a persona you adopt to sound impressive. It's who you are when the doors close, when you're staring at a calendar with more white space than a polar bear convention, and you still decide to make that next call. Why? Because belief isn't passive, it's active. It's a muscle, not a birthmark. And like any muscle, it gets stronger every time you use it, especially on days when your only motivation is the fact that quitting just isn't in your DNA. Let me paint a picture. Imagine two salespeople walk into the same room to pitch the same product. One's nervous, looking over their shoulder, hoping the customer will go easy on them. The other, calm, collected, maybe even having a little fun. The difference? It's not their tie, their pitch, or their haircut. Although, let's be honest, a bad haircut can kill a sale faster than a bad attitude. It's the conviction in their eyes. People can spot doubt faster than a dog spots a squirrel. If you don't believe in yourself, your client will sense it before you even open your mouth. On the flip side, real belief is magnetic. You become the kind of person others want to do business with not because you're perfect, but because you're authentic. You're willing to bet on yourself, and that gives others permission to bet on you too. And don't think for a second this is about ego. This isn't strutting around pretending to have all the answers. It's about owning your journey, your wins, your scars, your lessons. It's about standing tall even when the last 5 calls went nowhere, because you know the next one could change everything. Remember, the first step in salesmanship isn't about impressing the world. It's about convincing the toughest audience you'll ever face yourself. Once you do that, you'll find that everyone else just becomes a little bit easier. Now, let's address a cold, hard truth. Belief in yourself is not a magic cloak that protects you from rejection. I wish it worked that way, trust me, I'd have invested in a whole wardrobe of those cloaks by now. But belief is what keeps you getting back up, dusting yourself off, and marching into the next conversation with your head held high, instead of crawling away to update your resume for the 1000th time. Rejection isn't the end. It's just another round in the ring. If you're not getting rejected, you're probably not trying hard enough. And if you're scared of hearing no, congratulations, so is everyone else on the planet. That's why most people settle for the safety of maybe. But maybe doesn't build careers. Maybe doesn't put food on the table or trophies on the shelf. Here's a little exercise for you. Next time you get rejected, and you will, if you're doing this right, I want you to celebrate. Yes, you heard me. Do a little victory dance. If you can't dance, just nod knowingly, like you're in on the world's best kept secret. Why? Because every no brings you one step closer to a yes. Every time you face rejection and don't fall apart, you build resilience, the invisible armor of every great salesperson. Let me give you a personal example. Early in my career, I once tried to sell a set of encyclopedias to a retired librarian. That's right, a woman who had probably forgotten more about books than I'll ever know. She looked at me with a smile, patted my hand and said, "Son, I've got enough books to last me 3 lifetimes, and if you come back tomorrow, I'll still have the same answer." Did I leave feeling crushed? For a minute, sure. But then I realized she gave me her time, she respected my effort, and most importantly, I survived the no. The sun came up the next day, and so did I. You see, the world's top salespeople aren't made of steel. They're made of rubber. They bounce back. They understand that belief in yourself doesn't mean you'll win every time. It means you'll play every time. And eventually, persistence plus belief equals results. So next time you're facing that blank stare, that curt email, or that door closing in your face, remember, you're not collecting failures, you're collecting proof that you're in the game. And in sales, being in the game is half the battle won. Don't just practice your pitch, practice your recovery. Don't just rehearse your lines, rehearse your resilience. The first step in salesmanship isn't about being fearless, it's about being relentless. Let's cut through the noise for a minute. There's a reason the first step in salesmanship is always about you, not the product, not the market, not even the customer. You can have the fanciest gadgets, the trendiest app, or a service so groundbreaking it practically sells itself, but if you don't have yourself on board, you're like a Ferrari with no gas. Looks great in the driveway, goes nowhere fast. Too many people waste their time searching for external motivation, a pep talk from a boss, a glowing review, maybe even a lottery ticket taped to their bathroom mirror. Hey, we've all been there. But the fire that lasts isn't lit by someone else. You need to become your own spark plug. Ever notice how the most successful people you meet aren't always the best dressed, the best looking, or the best connected? No, the real heavyweights have something different. Call it energy, call it conviction, call it, "I woke up like this," but you know it when you see it. They're lit up from the inside. They walk into a room and people sit up a little straighter. Not because of what's in their hands, but because of what's in their head. And you can build that. Every morning when you brush your teeth, you're standing face to face with your greatest asset and sometimes your worst enemy. That person in the mirror, they set the tone for your day. So don't just check your hair, check your attitude. Ask yourself, would I buy from me today? If the answer is no, don't leave the house until you can say yes. Or at least fake it so well that even your reflection is impressed. Now, does that mean you need to be a non-stop fountain of positivity? Of course not. There are days when you'll feel like your sales pitch is about as convincing as a toddler's bedtime excuse. But that's normal. Self-belief isn't about denying reality. It's about facing it with enough guts to say, I can make something happen today, even if it's just taking one small step forward. Remember, the marketplace is crowded with doubters and dreamers who never do. The field is wide open for anyone willing to believe in themselves long enough to keep showing up. If you can master that first step, selling yourself to yourself, other move gets a little easier. Not easy, just easier. So next time you're tempted to look for the magic answer in a new technique or a shiny tool, remember, the real secret weapon in sales has been staring back at you every morning. Trust it, fuel it, and then get out there and prove it. Let's be honest, sometimes the only thing standing between you and success is that stubborn, skeptical voice in your head. You know the one. Who am I to do this? Why would anyone listen to me? If I had a nickel for every time that voice tried to talk me out of something, I'd probably own the nickel mine by now. But here's the kicker. Even the greats feel this way. The difference is they don't let it dictate their actions. They know that confidence isn't the absence of doubt, it's the decision to move forward despite it. Think about it. Courage isn't waiting for the fear to disappear. Courage is knocking on the next door while fear is riding shotgun, yelling directions. Here's a little secret seasoned salespeople won't tell you. Half the time, we're all winging it. Sure, preparation matters, but life will throw you curveballs. The customer's mood, a last-minute product change, the sudden realization that your tie is on backwards. Welcome to the real world. The pros have simply gotten good at improvising, at trusting themselves enough to figure it out on the fly. Let me give you an example. There was a time I showed up to a big presentation, briefcase in hand, notes in order, feeling like $1,000,000. 5 minutes in, the projector breaks, the coffee machine explodes, and someone in the front row starts snoring. Perfect, right? But instead of freezing, I tossed my notes aside, cracked a joke, and rolled with it. Did I close the deal? You bet I did. Not because everything went right, but because I kept going when it went wrong. Self-belief is not about living in a fantasy where nothing bad ever happens. It's about developing a core so solid that you can adapt, pivot, and maybe even laugh when things go sideways. Because here's the truth. People are drawn to authenticity. They'd rather work with someone who can admit they don't have all the answers than with a robot who pretends to be perfect. So next time your inner critic starts its usual rant, do what the best salespeople do. Thank it for its concern, then politely ignore it and keep moving forward. The first step in salesmanship isn't shutting up that voice forever. It's proving time and time again that you can outwork it. And remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep showing up, keep believing, and keep selling yourself on yourself. Because the most important sale you'll ever make is the one you close in your own mind every single day. Let's face it, no matter how well you prep, no matter how much you pump yourself up, there will be days when you feel about as inspiring as a soggy slice of toast. Maybe your calls go straight to voicemail. Maybe every pitch lands with a thud. Maybe your own dog doesn't want to hear about your amazing new offer. Welcome to the club. If sales were easy, we'd all be running seminars from our yachts by now. The key isn't to avoid these moments, but to power through them. Because belief isn't something you nail once and coast on forever. It's more like a gym membership. You have to keep showing up, even when you'd rather stay home eating ice cream and watching late-night reruns. Let me give you some practical advice. Don't go it alone. Surround yourself with people who remind you what's possible, colleagues, friends, mentors. The right circle won't let you wallow in self-doubt for long. They'll call you out, lift you up, and sometimes give you the kick in the pants you desperately need. And yes, celebrate the little wins. Got through a tough call without apologizing for existing? That's a win. Got a maybe instead of a flat no? Put that on your scoreboard. The most successful salespeople I know are world-class at recognizing progress, even when it's measured in inches, not miles. Here's another trick. Remember why you started. It's easy to get lost in the weeds of quotas and targets and motivational posters that haven't motivated anyone since 1992. Go back to your core reason. What got you excited about this in the first place? What problem are you actually solving for people? When you reconnect with your purpose, belief in yourself feels less like a chore and more like a natural response. And let's not forget humor. Never underestimate the power of laughing at yourself. Take it from me, nothing breaks the tension in a room or your own mind like being able to admit you're human. If you can crack a joke about your own awkward moments, you take the sting out of failure and remind yourself that, hey, you're still in the game. At the end of the day, the first step in salesmanship isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about being the best, most resilient version of yourself day after day, even when you're not feeling it, especially then. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, excuses. If there's one thing that kills more dreams than rejection, it's the parade of excuses we tell ourselves. I'm not cut out for sales. I don't have the right connections. The market is tough right now. Let me be blunt. If making excuses were a paying job, most people would be millionaires. But newsflash, nobody's buying what you're not selling, and no one's giving out medals for the best sob story. Great salespeople don't deny reality, they just refuse to be ruled by it. They know the game is tough. They know some doors will never open, some days will flat out stink, and some prospects will have less personality than a bag of doorknobs. But they keep showing up, because at the end of the day, success is about persistence, not perfection. I'll let you in on a personal secret. The deals I'm proudest of aren't the ones that fell into my lap. They're the ones I chased for months, the ones that seemed impossible, the ones where I heard no so many times I started thinking it was my new first name. But I kept going because I believed in the value I brought to the table. And let's be real, sometimes sheer stubbornness is your best friend in this business. Another thing, stop comparing yourself to others. There will always be someone with flashier numbers, more followers, or a desk closer to the window. Don't let someone else's highlight reel make you doubt your own journey. The first step in salesmanship is not about outshining everyone else. It's about outlasting your own self-doubt, outworking your own fears, and outgrowing your own excuses. And when you start to slip, because everyone does come back to the basics, remind yourself why you started, tally up those little wins, call your best friend who always believes in you, and get back in the game. Remember, the most important client you'll ever close is the one in the mirror. Win that sale, and the rest starts falling into place. You don't need superpowers, you don't need a crystal ball. You just need the guts to get up, dust yourself off, and try again. The world doesn't remember those who almost tried, they remember those who never quit. So here we are, the end of the beginning. If you've followed along, you've probably realized by now that the first step in salesmanship has precious little to do with scripts, sales funnels, or the latest hacks from someone selling you a secret system. It's about the simplest, most stubbornly difficult thing you'll ever do, making the sale to yourself. Think of it this way. Every morning you stand at the edge of your own potential. You can play it safe, let doubt steer the ship, and watch the opportunities sail by, or you can square your shoulders, look yourself in the eye and say, not today. Today, I back myself. That's the sale that unlocks all the others. And yes, you'll wobble. You'll have mornings when you feel more like a used tea bag than a motivational poster. You'll get rejected, ignored, maybe even laughed at. But that's the business. The real win isn't avoiding the struggle, it's refusing to be defined by it. Here's a little trick from my own playbook. Whenever self-doubt creeps in, because let's face it, it's more persistent than most salespeople I know, I ask myself one question: if I don't believe in me, why should anyone else? Sounds simple, but it's a game changer. Because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, you can't expect others to write you a check figuratively or literally. And let's talk about legacy. The best salespeople aren't remembered for the number of deals they closed, they're remembered for the way they showed up, for the times they believed when no one else did, for the days they kept going long after others called it quits. If you want to stand out, become the person who always bets on themselves, especially when the odds look lousy. So the next time you feel like you're faking it, or you're not good enough, or you're one bad call away from giving up, stop, take a breath. Remind yourself, the world is full of people waiting for permission to play small. You're not one of them. Your first and greatest sale will always be convincing yourself you deserve a seat at the table. After that, everything else is just practice. Remember, belief isn't a feeling, it's a decision you make every day. Rain or shine, win or lose. Sell yourself to yourself again and again, until even your doubts throw in the towel out of sheer exhaustion. Now get out there. The world's not going to sell itself, and it sure as hell isn't going to wait for someone who's still arguing with the mirror. The first step in salesmanship is yours. Take it again and again and watch the rest fall into place.